Good Sunday evening, high school sports fans. Joe Gillaway with Lingelstown Gazette Sports live from the Orchard Street studio. And this is our high school football week 6 recap show. I'll be joined momentarily by our panel of experts along with our opening guest as soon as we're done thanking those responsible for bringing you tonight's show, our Lingelstown Gazette Sports Platinum sponsors. And they are American Legion Post 272, Crystal Bob at Iron Valley Real Estate, the Tire Mart, Team PA, AAU Basketball, Capital Region Insurance Agency, Sam Hartley Decking, Payor Apparel, Tonino's Pizza, Hoffman Ford, and Ted's Bar and Grill. Thanks to those great local businesses for their continued support of Lingelstown Gazette Sports and our area student athletes. Upcoming, we have scheduled out a little bit further than we ever have before. We have 3 upcoming coaches who are going to be joining us. Next week, it'll be Coach Joe Heaton from Susquehanna Township, 6-0 on the season thus far. And then Coach Andrew Irby from Steel High. And then from Twin Valley, we have Brett Myers. These 3 coaches have teams that are combined 15-2 at this point in the season. 2 of them are undefeated. So we're getting some great coach guests. And, of course, we have another one tonight. We will let you know who that is momentarily. And I want to introduce the panel of experts we have tonight. Dave Berman, the voice of Delco, Terry Clark Jr., and Travis Waters. Fellas, thanks, as always, for joining us. We really appreciate it. It looks like we will be without Eric Thomas unless he bounces in late here, which he has done before. We want to thank Penn Live, the Patriot News Penn Live. We do borrow some of their photos on a weekly basis, and we really appreciate it. These are professionally done photos. And we would be remiss not to thank them for allowing us to enhance our offering with their photos. So anyway, our guest tonight, we're excited. We're very excited about this guy. I mean, he's one of the better coaches in the state for sure, and he's just a good guy. You know, he has roots up our way, which is Terry and Travis and my way up here in the greater Harrisburg area, I guess we'll call it. And he has his Coatesville Red Raiders off to a 6-0 start. And it's an exciting time to be, I guess, part of that Coatesville program, right, Dave? It's,
yes.
For the players, for the fans, for the coaches, for guys like you that contribute to it in a different way. So let's bring them in. This is 17th year Coatesville head coach, Matt Ortega. Coach, how are you?
How you doing?
Doing well. We're glad to have you, and man, this is kind of a thrill, man. We really put a lot of thought, and we really care about the coaches that we bring on the show. These guys will tell you that, and we're just really glad to have you in here tonight. So I'm going to get things started here, and this is a kind of a canned question, but I like this question. I like to ask this of a lot of the coaches we have on. You've been at this for 17 years, longer than that. You started at York, but you've been with Coatesville for 17 years. And what kind of defines this team or makes them a little different than the other 16? What's the DNA of this team, or kind of what makes them go, Coach?
Yeah, you look back over the years, you're a successful team. One of the things that's always consistent in those teams, obviously, you have to have talent. I mean, that's, no one can do it without having talented players. So that's first and foremost. And then second, we have a 3-year starter quarterback, so, at any level, it takes that quarterback, position needs to be, solid for you to have success. And then the big one is, you have these special groups who, the players get along with each other. There's a special, unity amongst the team. I mean, they have fun going to practice. They enjoy the grind, which we talk about all the time. I mean, being a part of a program like ours, it takes a lot of time, from January all the way through to the spring and the summer, and multiple sport athletes. And, we ask a lot out of our players, and, this group really enjoys the process of coming to practice, staying late, doing all the extras. They just been, it's been fun coaching these guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the last question I'll ask you for now is, you have roots in Steelton. You're from Steelton originally, right?
Yeah.
Do you still have a little bit of that Steeltonian in you? What did you get from being from Steelton, and what still remains with the way that you approach your life in general?
Well, my mom and dad still live from a par 5 from the high school, so I'm in Steelton, often. So Definitely that Steel Town mentality, the diversity of Steelton, really shaped me as a person. And, one of the reasons why, Coatesville was one of the jobs that I really wanted to, have. It was one of my top three to four jobs that I wanted in the state. And, because it's kind of, I always say it's a bigger Steelton. So, it definitely has molded me, and it's definitely one of the reasons why I feel I've been so successful at Coatesville, because it just kind of, again, reminds me of Steelton and just what my comfort zone is.
Yeah, I like that comparison, and I can definitely see that for sure. Dave Berman, the voice of Delco, let's bring you in, bud.
Voice of Coatesville, PA announcer last 6 years too, so pretty cool. So, Coach, big stretch coming up for you. 6-0 start, but you got Downingtown East, Downingtown West, you got Shanahan. So let's get into that. One game at a time.
Yeah, we got to get through the homecoming week. We know Henderson, they're a good ball club, and they always play us well. But we talk about when we start in the week 8 with Downingtown East, it's pretty much going to be a playoff run from there on out. The rest of the way out. So definitely big games for us. But we do have that 1-0 mentality, and honestly, we haven't even really watched any film on Downingtown East. We're just really focused on our next opponent, which is Henderson. But we're also not naive, and we know what's out there. And, we know that, these 3 big games at the end are going to really define, a regular season. And then hopefully, we play beyond.
3 sons combined that played for Coatesville. One still there, of course. Your son, Matt Jr., having Buggy, as they like to call him, and we call him.
Yeah.
Having an unbelievable year, but a combined with all 3, 250 career touchdowns for the Ortega boys.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I think Buggy mentioned to me the other day, that Nate Hackenberg reached out to him, and I didn't even really give it any thought process. And when he kind of threw that number out there, I was just kind of like, wow, that's a lot of touchdowns, and just being blessed to have 3 boys that really just embrace, me and my wife, being athletes and in college, and, an athletic family. I never had to force anything on those 3 guys. I mean, it was honestly like whatever path they chose, we were going to support. And they happened to just be around the game and just loved every part about it and bought into the culture. And when they all got their shot, they went out there and played at a real high level. And, it's just, it's truly a blessing, to be able to, coach them and see their success, but also too I tell people all the time, it's not a cliche, but it's one of the things that builds our program and kind of builds our culture. I kind of coach all our kids just like my own, and I think our success and consistency has been, I've always taken that approach, whether it's my sons, they're all my sons, and just trying to always make sure we do right to the best of our ability, for our student athletes on and off the field.
Real quick before your wife is just so positive. I see a lot of her stuff on Facebook promoting the program, promoting the town of Coatesville. So it's great to have your wife involved big time. The pride, and she was a good athlete too. The pride of Punxsutawney.
Wow.
Yes, she was. Yeah, I mean, she was a Division I athlete, and I always tease my boys. I'm like, hey, you guys got to follow the format now. You got to make sure you find one that's athletic. You got to keep those genetics going. But no, she's awesome. I mean, I'm sure any coach that been in it long enough like me, whether it's football, basketball, track, whatever it is, you got to have that support system at home, where you're not going to be able to accomplish your goals and be the best you can be if you don't have that kind of supportive wife at home.
Hey, I typically don't jump back in before it's my turn again, but we have to ask you, where did the name Buggy come from?
We come from a family that has 1,000 nicknames.
Okay.
They all have nicknames, and my wife used to call him Junebug, and then when he was real little, and then this just kind of grew from there. And once you play in Little League and play all the different sports, the people hear her call him that, and then it's all he ever knows. I mean, he forgets that his name is Matt Jr. I mean, honestly, he prefers to go by Buggy. So it's just kind of something that stuck out there. But everybody has 1,000 nicknames in my family.
I like it. Terry Clark.
Yes. Thanks, Coach, first and foremost, for joining the show. I'm glad to have you, of course. Before I get started with my question, I just had to congratulate you for being the first minority head coach of the Big 33. game. That's a pretty big deal. I'm not sure how you feel about that personally, but it is definitely a big deal. So I definitely wanted to shout that out. With that being said, I do understand that there's a little process involved that is involved for becoming a head coach for the Big 33 game. I was wondering if you can kind of like explain that process some.
Yeah, so first off, it's a nomination, and then we have different committees who are in charge of all aspects of, the PSFCA, which is the Coaches Association, and the Big 33 game. And then once you're nominated, you go in a pool, and then we meet every year, and we talk about each candidate, and then they go ahead and vote and choose the candidate for the All-Star games. And the normal process is normally, you have to be an assistant in the East-West game. Then you have to be an assistant in the Big 33 game. And then you have to be the head coach of one of the East-West games. And then that makes you eligible to be the head coach, possibility of the Big 33 game. So, it's kind of a process, a long process. And, it's definitely, I was very honored because, I've said this numerous times, just honored that, we were finally able to get a minority coach. I can remember when I first joined the PFCA, when you had 2 minority coaches on the entire organization. For out of 55 coaches, there's only 2 minorities, as a director for the PSFCA. And just to see how many we have there now, and, being the first one, there's going to be many, many more to come after me, especially the way there's been a resurgence of football in the city of Philadelphia, and obviously the success in the Harrisburg area and Pittsburgh area. There's so many qualified minority coaches now, and it's going to be, there'll be many more to come.
Yeah, we feel like we have a few up here too that hopefully we'll get a shot someday. Terry, you have another one? You want to stay in?
Yeah, I'll stay in a little bit. I'll shift gears back to Coatesville football. So if I'm not mistaken, since you've been at Coatesville, I believe you've averaged about 10 wins since your time you have been there. Can you remember, like, when you first started at Coatesville, like what were some of the things that you did early to get your program to where it is now today?
Yeah, one of the things first, when I came in that first year, we were 5-5. And always that first year, you kind of got to kind of get a feel. Again, trust me, they let me know, and it's just like people from Stilton are too. It's like I wasn't a townie, at first, so they were rough on me when I first got there. But when I went in, there were some issues internally in the program. At that point in time, there weren't dual sport athletes in the school. So that was my first layer that I had to crack. It was just, I had to sell the dual sport, multiple sport athletes. So that was a big one. We, believe it or not, we had some race issues when I first got there. We're a very diverse culture. And after my first year, that was the second thing that I had to really focus on, is getting, to get the players to play together. And there were some past issues there. And that was another thing. But then I think the biggest thing that allowed us to build our culture was the staff was, truly guys that I coached with at McCaskey. I had some core guys, and Scott Feldman, who was the head coach at Still High, and defensive coordinator at Bishop McDevitt when they won a state championship. And he was my mentor. He was the head coach at McCaskey. I had him with me. Pete Susi was from the Harrisburg area, played at McDevitt, and I coached with him at McCaskey. Then I bought another close friend of mine who's the track coach at Coatesville from McCaskey. Damian Henry's in the Hall of Fame at McCaskey. Just quality, great coaches, that were very familiar with me and my style, and went to Coatesville and just truly embraced the community. And honestly, I think one of the biggest things that I think was a hidden gem for us in terms of building our culture there was, bringing my sons when they were 8, 5, and 3. So basically at that point in time, they played city baseball, they played football, they played in the basketball leagues. And honestly, just through that whole timing and that whole process of getting to know those families, those are the same families that were, with us during the run that we had from, 2012 to now. Just that timing of being able to get into the city and again, playing city baseball and basketball and football, getting to know the town and the community, and lifelong friends. It was just it was great timing. and allowed us to really build a true family here in Coatesville. And that's really allowed us to have our consistency and our success.
Nice. Travis, you want to jump in here, bud? You're muted, Travis, if you can hear me. Yep, there we go.
I'm sorry, Coach. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I don't know if you remember, we almost coached together at Harrisburg back in '97.
Oh yeah. Yep, I remember.
You went to York or McCaskey or something. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is a selfish question. I think you guys really match up well with mid-pen teams, and I know you guys have been to Harrisburg. You've been to Cumberland Valley. Do you think there's any chance you might match up with a mid-pen team in the future?
Yeah, it's funny. I always said I always my staff would always bustle me because we always had one usually a long trip to Harrisburg to play a game. I played CD East in the past in the regular season. We played Cumberland Valley 2 separate times. We played Harrisburg non-league. We played Central Dauphin non-league. So I always, if I can, try and find a game back in Harrisburg, and that was for selfish reasons because I wanted to get back and play one game close to home. One of the most special games for my oldest son, Ricky, was when we played Harrisburg up there in the opener. Just being from the area, knowing that I coached there and hearing all the stories. And then we attended a Harrisburg Imatep game. He was real young. It just kind of made me, want to schedule that game because he wanted to play there. So, it's definitely, we want to be able to play in Harrisburg as much as possible. I'd even like to play some in Lancaster County because, I coached there for 5 years. But it just seems really hard to get teams to play us, which I don't really understand because, prior to this season, we were kind of down for a couple of years. But, definitely look forward to possibly playing some more mid-pen teams or Lancaster teams in the future.
All right. So let's go around the horn one more time. I have one more question for you, Coach. And I'm not trying to give anybody any locker room fodder. I really am not. Do you guys have like a natural rival down there? Is there a team that I know that you go one game at a time and you probably circle all the games on your calendar, but is there that one game that let's just say the players get up for a little bit more? They might have relationships with the kids, whether they're good or bad. Do you have that rival that you look forward to every year?
Yeah, it's Downingtown. So to give you an example, when Downingtown used to be one school, I mean, they're budding towns next to each other. So it'd be like Stilton and Middletown. It's that right. Close. And they're our big arch rivals, and then they split into 2 schools, East and West. Those games are, and Dave will tell you, we play at our place, we play at Cotmire, and it's packed. What I love about Coatesville and love about the rivalry between Coatesville and Downingtown is I always say we are true throwback towns in terms of you come to a game, it throws you back 15, 20 years in terms of, the fans that are there and how big the game is between the 2 communities. That's our rival, both Downingtowns.
Nice. Dave Berman.
Talk about your sophomores. A lot of guys making big contributions. Teddy Tools, Mr. Bradshaw is another one there. Mr. Watson, among others, Coach.
Yeah, I love our sophomore group. We definitely got some good sophomore skill in that class. And, and then with our current 9th grade class, we got some big players in that class. So, the timing of those 2 classes, might keep me in there a little longer here at Coatesville. So, definitely a group to be excited about.
And a Penn State recruit, Terry Wiggins. We'll talk about him, senior.
Yeah, Terry's awesome. They did a good job, in terms of seeing his upside and seeing, you kind of saw, Dave, how we moved him to inside linebacker. That's honestly where Penn State is going to play him. That's not one of the reasons why we did it. But we just felt like when we had him an outside linebacker to the field, teams were running away from him. But when we put him inside, you really can't run away from him. He's a special player. He's got a huge upside in terms of his football IQ. He's one of the better IQ kids that we've had over the years. And he's just such a smart football player. And you can obviously see that on the field with how instinctive he is.
Terry?
Yes. Last question for me. So, as you mentioned, you coached in our area. You coached in Lancaster. Now you're at Coatesville. What are the major differences between coaching like here in the Harrisburg area and where you are at now? Besides, I know there being like more bigger schools in that area.
I mean, even though, like I said, even though our games are well attended between the Coatesvilles and the Dangtowns, the one thing that I miss from the Mid-Penn is I think overall, week in and week out, you have bigger crowds. One of the things that we have down here is we have so many professional sports near the Philly area. It's like high school football is kind of like secondary. Where I remember the days of Lancaster and Harrisburg, and it was big with the media and the paper and the TV with the high school football. Whereas like down here, it's so much Phillies and Eagles and professional sport type things is one of the things that makes it a little bit different down our way. The coverage that's changed overall in general, just in sports in general, with the amount of coverage we have on TV and in the paper. But that's really one of the only differences, from the two areas.
And Travis.
Yeah, Coach, you play quarterback, and you have 3 sons that play quarterback. First of all, do you have any more sons in the pipeline?
Now, actually, my middle one was a wideout. But yeah, the oldest was a quarterback.
Okay.
And he plays lacrosse. He plays lacrosse too, right? Is that what he plays in college?
He was a Division II All-American this past year. He plays at University of Tampa.
Nice. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I don't have any more, man. It's funny.
No.
I wish this was the last one. But I tell you what, man, when people look back at Coatesville's years and all the years that I was there, man, when I go down to my coach's sons, holy moly! I mean, it's been a day would tell you, man. Our coaches' kids have been unbelievable when it comes to the Susie and the Youngs and mine and now Van Orden. It's funny, the coaches' kids. I mean, they've done an unbelievable job for us.
Hey, I'm going to ask you one question here that one of our regular viewers, Kirby Lentz, would like us to ask. He says, Coach, what is the difference between coaching in an urban school versus a suburban school? Now, I know Coatesville kind of gets the label that it's more suburban, and it is. It's not urban, but it has the demographics of maybe a school that's closer to the city, right?
Yeah, again, we're Stilton, man. We are Stilton down to a T, just on a larger scale. Honestly, my like I said, being from Stilton, coaching at Harrisburg High and coaching at McCaskey, Coachville is just such a natural fit for me. It's kind of just where my strengths are, with the diversity and, definitely in Coatesville, we always talk about our diversity just as a school district alone. It's our big positive, is that diversity. And I tell our kids all the time, I do as a coach. I mean, I coach to see, different races and kids from different socioeconomic backgrounds coming together. That's honestly why I do it, and just,
right.
It's one of the things that we preach in our program. And, I told our kids the other day before one of our big games, how, we have a chance to really go out there, especially what's going on in our country. We have a chance to be able to show people what it, not just because we win football games, just see how, you need to be in this country. You need to be together, one unified group, and we enjoy what we're doing, and we're going to be the example, with the diversity coming together, for one cause, and it's definitely one of the things, coaching in the city and coaching a school like mine is diverse. That's one of the big positives. I wouldn't want it any different.
Okay, so 17th year Coatesville head coach Matt Ortega. We really appreciate it. You're off to a great 6-0 start with some tough, kind of a bunch of really good teams upcoming in the regular season. And we wish you well. We wish you good health. And we just thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime I can do something up towards the Harrisburg area, man, like I said, that's my home. So, and
likewise from our end, if you ever need anything from us.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Coach. Take care.
Thanks, Coach.
So anyway, what a great interview. And Kirby, I didn't want to kind of answer that question for you, but I think Coatesville is a little less suburban than you may think. I mean, the campus itself is kind of looks suburban and the feel is suburban, but it's I think all the kids that Coach Ortega has ever coached, I think he started at JP McCaskey and then York High. Dave, am I right here? And then Coatesville. He's always had kind of a group that's, like he said, the socioeconomics kind of lend themselves to more of an urban environment in terms of a lot of things. So what a great interview. I really appreciate Coach Ortega coming on. Now we know that Buggy was not really that big. It was June Bug, and Buggy's short for June Bug. I was wondering that the other day. So let's get into our housekeeping. Anthony Andrioli, who watches this show a lot and watches a lot of stuff we do, he asked a question, and I'm assuming, Anthony, that this was for us to answer. It didn't kind of fit in with Coach Ortega, but it's a great question. Anthony says, discuss how down District 3 6A is from top to bottom. Only 3 or 4 good teams. And what's interesting about that, and I understand exactly what you're saying. It's the same 4 teams every year vying for the district championship. It's Harrisburg, Central York, Manheim Township, and Wilson. And it looks like that's what it's going to continue to be. I mean, I don't know. We're not here to prognosticate, I guess is the word. Did I get that right? Or kind of look into the future. But these teams have been the 4 teams, and they kind of don't feel like they're going anywhere. Guys, what do you think? What's going on there? We know that Central Dauphin dropped off. Cumberland Valley dropped off. York wins a bunch of games in the regular season, and then they don't beat anybody good in the postseason. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the way it goes. Anybody have any feelings on that?
Nope, I completely agree with you. I think that's pretty much the ceiling. Harrisburg is right here, and then Central York, Manheim Township, Wilson, and that's the ceiling. And everyone else is trying to get up to that.
Anthony, I wish we had a more interesting answer for you, but that's what you see is what we see. Anybody else have any? Travis?
No, I mean, I think that's what it is. And it's going to, and I don't know if anything's going to really change next year, quite honestly. But it is what it is right now. And I think that's in large part to actually the mid-pen not being as good as it was. Because in the past, you can count on a few mid-pen teams to actually have a chance. But the mid-pen kind of fell off from a 6A standpoint, I think.
And let's remember that, or let's remind the folks that only one of the mid-pen Commonwealth teams are in 6A in District 3. One of them's in District 6, which is State College, and then McDevitt's in 5A in District 3. So really, it's only Harrisburg representing the Commonwealth. Okay, good question, Anthony. Thanks for asking that. You know what else I found a little interesting is Harrisburg had those 3 brutal games. We talked to Coach Cal about it last week. He started out with Imhotep, and then his 2 big, what has become or will be his 2 big rivals, McDevitt and State College back-to-back, and then 7 games against kind of average or below average teams. I wonder if, and I don't know, could the mid-pen have done things any more interesting so that those games were spread out? McDevitt and State College do play in Week 10. That's good. That's interesting. I don't anticipate that it's going to be for the division, but don't you guys think it would be kind of interesting to save those matchups to like maybe 7 through 10, week 7 through 10?
Yeah. Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Travis.
No, go ahead, Travis.
Okay. Well, I would say yeah.
Travis
did it again.
Travis.
I think there might be a delay. That's what it is. But it would be nice to see. But I don't think you plan. I mean, you expect Cumberland Valley to be good and competitive. You expect Central Dauphin to be competitive. And then I think East has been competitive, a little more competitive recently, and that's always a good match. Has been a pretty good matchup at the end of the season, East and Harrisburg. But I think it's more of it's the way, just like I said, some of these teams are just not as competitive as they were. So with Harrisburg playing McDevitt and State College at the beginning of the season, and then you're waiting for McDevitt and State College to play at the end of the season, those, if you really think about it, those are your only really interesting games,
Mm-hmm.
They're the only ones that should be interesting. Now, a team cannot play well and it might be interesting, but, on paper, those are going to be your only interesting games.
That's the answer I came up with, Travis, to myself when I asked myself about this yesterday, meaning that there's not somebody sitting behind a curtain going, well, Harrisburg, McDevitt, and State College are the only good teams, and that's the way it's going to be. They have to kind of be more open-minded and not assume who's going to be good and who's not. So, yeah, that's the answer there. I just thought, you take those 3 teams, at least last year, this year, probably for the immediate future, and you match them up in week 7 through 10, there's just a lot more kind of intrigue to those games. So how about this one, Dave? I know that you feel kind of passionate about this stuff. Another Whippeal District 7 forfeit, or they're calling it a postponement, okay? But it seems like we do this, I call it, jokingly, I just call it our law and order portion of the program. But this doesn't really have to do with law or order. But Springdale postpones their game versus Leechburg. Springdale interim athletic director said the game is currently postponed and not a forfeit. All efforts will be made to try to make up the game. He has to make decisions that are best interest of our student athletes. And once again, it has to do with safety of players. I mean, Dave, what do you think of this? And let's kind of have some compassion that some of these situations may be true, they may be accurate. So, but what do you think about getting halfway into the season and starting to forfeit or postpone games?
I don't like it.
Okay. Yeah, they call it lack of healthy players. That seems to be the theme, right, Terry? Like they always say there's not enough healthy players.
Yeah, like I said when we talked about this before, if the Whippeal is going to continue to allow teams to do this, what's stopping other teams from doing it? That's what we're seeing. That's why I said that they're going to have to, do something about it, because it's going to be a continuous thing. Teams are seeing certain teams come up on their schedule, and it's like, well, we're not going to win anyways. It's not going to be competitive, so let's go ahead and say we don't have enough healthy players or whatever the case may be. I just don't like it.
It's kind of turned into open season for that now, since once the floodgates have opened. And then there's 2 more that are kind of very similar. These are even different than that, but along the same lines. Fox Chapel and Baldwin, they both commissioned the Whippeal or went to the Whippeal and said that they want to put mercy rules in their games from the beginning of the game. Okay. Fox Chapel is playing Pine Richland, and their request was the first quarter they want to be 12 minutes. The second quarter, they want to scale it down to 8 minutes. Third quarter, 8 minutes with running clock. Fourth quarter, 8 minutes with running clock. So basically, you're removing an entire quarter from that game, 4 minutes times 3, and then putting a running clock on, which it may have been that way anyway after halftime. But they want this to be, and it's going to, I think it happened. It was over the Friday night or yesterday. They wanted to make the rules the way that they wanted the game to be played. And it was kind of mercy rules. Any comments on that? Anybody?
I don't like it.
I'll let Travis cut in.
Dave, you're doing a good job here, buddy. Travis?
Yeah, so a couple things. I do think there's some teams are like, okay, we don't want to get blown out. So we're not gonna play. But I do think there might be some legitimate concerns, or there could be some legitimate concerns for some teams, because as we talked about, kids, as many kids aren't playing football now. So if you have a team that really isn't that competitive, or a smaller school, they really might not have enough players to really play a safe game. As far as the mercy rule thing, I really don't like that, because that should be able to be managed. Even a and it should be able to be managed from the team that is superior, the coach who has superior team. You would think that, this is high school football, manage it so that, it's this isn't ridiculous. I know we had the game a few weeks ago where York scored 90 something points. I just don't know how you do that with a running clock, how a team is that bad. But you should be able to manage that where you don't have to, like, okay, we're going to play for a running clock. That's a little ridiculous to me.
Yeah, to start out the game that way. Yeah, these coaches have relationships with one another.
Dave.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, they have relationships with one another, Travis. They should be able to come up with something, that they can agree on. And then there's Baldwin High. The athletic director sent letters to all of the remaining opponents, and due to, again, player safety concerns, they want their opposing teams to consider playing under the whole game under a running clock, or other teams using JV players. So
I just, I just don't get the purpose of it. I mean, just don't. I just don't. If you're gonna go through all of that, why not just forfeit the game then? At that point, forfeit the
Right.
game. I would much rather that than this.
Yeah, you're asking a guy to play as
especially-
JV players, and that's just kind of weird.
It's especially as a person that coaches football. Like, obviously, you got to do what you're told. If the AD and the AMEDs are saying this is what they want to do, you know, there's only so much you could do as a head coach. But at the same time, you know, I'm going to push back and like, look, like, I don't want to do this. I don't agree with it. And also, what message are we sending to our players? Like, and even if our numbers are down, how do y'all expect me to continuously want to get kids to come play for my program if we're doing things like this?
That's a great
Like,
point.
you know what I mean? It just does not make sense. It's just not good. Any way you look at it. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. From even like Terry makes a great point from a player perspective. That can't feel good as a player. Like, okay, I got to play against. I'm a senior, and I got to play against JV players, or we're just gonna run the clock. I mean, come on, just
not good. And then I don't know if anybody saw this one. This is a kind of a law and order type thing. Wyoming County High School postpones football game for Sunday to replay it Sunday amid threat investigation. The Lackawanna Trail School District postponed its game against Old Forge due to an incident where a student made threats against the school. The case is about an incident state police say took place on September 16th, which is almost 2 weeks ago, where a Lackawanna Trail high school student attempted to climb a maintenance garage on campus during a scheduled fire drill. State police said when the student was confronted, he or she made several statements that he wanted to reenact the Charlie Kirk assassination and comment on his ability to shoot long distance. I mean, that's these things are becoming less than, I don't want to say more and more common because they're still not common. But Dave, you had a couple of them over the last couple of years down your way where there's these threats. And I think as an administrator or an athletic director, whomever is in charge of overseeing that stuff, probably a principal or school board, as much as you might think, there can't be any truth to that threat.
Some Upper Darby High School's been having some issues. Apparently, it's their kids. I use that word apparently, making not gun violence threats, but just apparently just talking trash and beating other kids up. Apparently, I don't know. So, and Bonner, which is right next door to Upper Darby High School, they're affected by it too. Bonner played O'Hara on Friday. The game was 4 p.m. because they have a curfew now in the Upper Darby Township area, 6 o'clock on Friday nights.
That's a rough area. That's where the Tower Theater, right?
Yeah, Val Shively's record shop.
Okay.
69th Street. You got the 69th Street, the bus terminal. To me, it's not a bad area.
Well,
but I mean, I don't know what else to say. Yeah, so we've had these kind of problems down here too. Not that with that kids doing up whatever. The Lackawanna Trail.
That kind of sounds like a threat that has to be taken seriously. So anyway, let's get back into football here. Actual football. We didn't have any, what we could typically talk about, any premier games, but there were some good games. Okay, some close matches, some close results with some teams that are playing good football this year. Shippensburg 23, Lower Dolphin 20. That was a Thursday night game, and then Mechanicsburg over Redland, West Perry over East Penn. So let's talk about these games. Let's make these our games of the week. Shippensburg 23-20 over Lower Dolphin. Mark Carruthers from Shippensburg, 19 carries for 101 yards, game-winning 12-yard touchdown late in the fourth. He also added 3 receptions for 40 yards, so he had 141 total yards. He was kind of the stud there for Shippensburg. Lower Dolphin did have a 41-yard field goal attempt close to when time was expiring, the last seconds of the game, hit the right upright with seconds remaining. And then Lower Dolphin had 223 rushing yards last week against Hershey, big win against their rival Hershey, only 87 Thursday night against Shippensburg. So I don't want to say that things are starting to become a lot more clear there, fellas, in the Keystone, because they're not, and we can talk about that here in a second. But anybody have any ideas of who you think is the team that's going to be able to escape that on top? Shippensburg, Hershey, Mechanicsburg, Redland, Lower Dauphin?
No,
That's a
it's
tough one,
close.
isn't it?
It's close right now. But I will say this though. I will say this: all the Keystone needed was for McDevitt to get out,
Yeah,
and it was going to be a competitive
changed everything. Great
conference.
point.
It changed everything, and I knew that this would happen. It would be competitive. McDevitt obviously was, they're on a different level than the rest of those teams in that, division. But outside of that, like you just named, you rattled off 5-6 teams that had a shot.
Yeah.
At winning.
Yeah, half the division still is legitimately in the running for the division title.
Then, of course, sleeping giant Mifflin County High School is 3-3 now after an epic 8-6 win over Palmyra. That was a game for the ages, man.
For the ages. Yeah, I watched the whole game, Dave.
Mifflin County's 3-3. They are in that sub-regional out there, and it looks like they're going to get by. All they need, I think, is 1 or 2 more wins, and they're going to get by. Erie Prep is also in that sub-region, but Erie Prep is playing like national-type teams. So Mifflin County has a chance to get the 4th and maybe even the 3rd spot and make hopefully a deep run, win that district up there, District 6, 8, 9, 10, and then hopefully advance to the state quarterfinals and play Roman.
Mifflin County legitimately has a chance to win 2 more games. There's 2 games that are unwinnable for them.
I don't know. We'll see.
Redland and Lower Dauphin. They're not going to win those.
Their defense is good, Joe. You got to give them credit. You guys have seen their defense.
Well,
I think okay, whatever. But
I think they're good against
points.
My wife is laughing in the background. Anyway, so 3-3, Joe. But it is a story. It's a story because you talk Mifflin County, you're talking to Mifflin. It's an all-star team. They're one county school.
Right. Okay. How about Mechanicsburg Redland? I know, Travis, you were watching that. Was anybody else watching that?
Yeah, that was actually a really competitive game, defensive game. I think in that game it was only a 14-7 game. It seemed like it was more than that. Mechanicsburg missed some opportunities where they stalled out a couple times in the red zone, and they had some penalties in the red zone that cost them in the red zone. But overall, it was a competitive game. And thinking about the Keystone, you do have about 4 or 5 teams that on any given Friday night can beat each other. So I think that's going to go down to the end. And I don't see a clear favorite in that division.
I was kind of impressed with Mechanicsburg's defense. Redland offense was held to 126 total yards. They had 46 rushing, 80 in the air, 6 first downs the whole game, and 0 points. They scored their 1 touchdown off of a kick return. Yeah. So nice defensive game from Mechanicsburg, and their big contributor on the offensive side was a fellow by the name of Reese Miller. Yep. He had 24 carries for 147 yards, one reception for 11 yards, 158 total yards for Reese Miller. So that was a good game. I thought so because it was competitive to the end, and Redland gave themselves some opportunities, but Mechanicsburg kind of answered the call every time they needed to. Mm-hmm. Did anybody happen to watch this West Perry East Pennsboro game? It was on PCN. And PCN, they'll keep playing their games, like all weekend, a handful of time. And I watched the whole game last night, and it was pretty entertaining. West Perry was down. They entered the 4th quarter, West Perry, down 20-7. Okay. They took a 26. East Pennsboro took a 26-14 lead with 3:17 left in the 4th quarter. Okay, so now you're down. Now you're up 12 points with 3:17 left. West Perry, who are not a good passing team, that's not what they do. They threw the ball when they had to. Adam Yoder, their best player, one of their best players, returned the kickoff when it was 26-14 there to the East Penn 33. That's always a good start. They scored in 30 seconds, so now they're down 1 touchdown. They recover an onside kick, and then they end up scoring another touchdown with 1:21 left. Make the extra point. West Perry wins 28-27. East Pennsboro. Here's a figure. And anybody that understands football, you'll understand that this is kind of a backwards or a kind of figure that you don't count on seeing too much. East Penn, 273 rushing yards in a loss. That's almost 3 full football fields of rushing, and they lost the game. West Perry, only 91 passing yards, most of it down the stretch. So West Perry barely threw the ball the whole game until they had to. But, that's a great game, and I just want to talk about it because, there's 2 coaches that I know that I like, and that was East Penn's first loss of the year. I'm pretty sure they're 5-1 now. So, hats off to both those teams and to West Perry for getting it done.
West Perry is quietly 5-1.
Yeah, they're both 5-1 now. Yeah. That's quietly is a good word because we don't really talk about them much. And we do, okay, because we cover football, but most people around here aren't talking about them.
West Perry, I'm familiar. I go back to the Musa Smith days.
Yep.
Travis?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, early in the season, I know me for sure. I kind of crowned Susquehanna Township, but I think they're going to have some tougher matchups than what I thought coming up here, playing some of those teams.
Yeah, I agree. So let's just touch on this. This is how interesting the Keystone is. After 6 weeks, Shippensburg is 5-0. Left for Shippensburg, remaining for Shippensburg, they still have Redland and Mechanicsburg. Okay, that's a tall task. Mechanicsburg is 4-1. This is in the division, of course. They have Hershey and Shippensburg left. Redland is 4-1. They also have Hershey and Shippensburg left. Lower Dauphin, this is where it gets interesting. Lower Dauphin, I'm including them here. They're 3-2. They have no top 5 teams remaining. Lower Dauphin has Palmyra, Mifflin County, Waynesboro, and Gettysburg left. So that's kind of interesting. And then Hershey's 3-2, and I wanted to include them here too because they have a pretty good team and they could go on a run. They have Redland and Mechanicsburg left. So you got kind of a mishmash there of 5 of the 9 or 10 teams are still very much in the running, and that to me that's very interesting.
And you have some of your best matchups coming up, especially that Mifflin County Lower Dauphin matchup should be real interesting.
Yeah. So, that's interesting. So, Terry, I didn't even think of that. Remove McDevitt from, and you know what? I think if Cedar Cliff was still left, they wouldn't have been the same impact as McDevitt, but they'd be winning probably most years because they're hanging around with some of these Commonwealth teams and beating them.
Yeah. I agree with that. McDevitt was the issue. Cedar Cliff probably would have been the favorite going forward to win the Keystone. Mm-hmm. But now we're seeing a really competitive division, and that's what we want.
Absolutely.
We want competition. Surprise team of the year, obviously Redland, so they're added to the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're competing for a title. No one's seen that coming except for the coaches and the players over there.
So guess what, guys? We can talk about the Keystone division every week now, from now until the end of the season. Because
a lot going on there.
They've earned it.
They could have 6, 7 teams in the.
No, there's 5. There's 5 that have in the postseason.
Yeah, in the postseason.
Yeah. There's a lot of 5A schools there, and they typically we typically put a lot of 5A teams in the district tournament. The Mid Penn does. So, how about let's just go down some other scores here, and I'm going to breeze through a lot of these. There was not a lot. The Commonwealth just had nothing kind of enticing or interesting. McDevitt blew out Altoona. Carlisle blew out Harrisburg. Cedar Cliff blew out Chambersburg. State College blew out Central Dauphin, and Cumberland Valley over East 24-6. I think some of these kind of lower teams, they can stick around with Cumberland Valley. Central Dauphin did it last week. They lost by 9. But Cumberland Valley is kind of the next tier, next underneath your State College, Harrisburg, and McDevitt. Then we have Hershey Big over Gettysburg. Susquehanna Township 21-0 over Middletown. And here's a game that I watched all of. I think you guys might have too, or some of you. Roman Catholic 39. Oh, we're jumping out of the mid-pen altogether here. Roman Catholic 39, LaSalle College 36. And I'll tell you what, it didn't look like Roman was going to be able to stop LaSalle at first. LaSalle went right down the field the first couple of times they had the ball. I think I even texted you guys saying, Roman's going to have to be able to respond to this or they're not going to be able to stay in the game. And boy, did they ever.
LaSalle, St. Joe's Prep next. St. Joe's Prep looked incredible the other 58-0 over a good Father Judge team.
Is Father Judge good? Are they at?
Yeah, they're
okay.
Good. They're good.
I believe you. If you say they are, I believe
but they're not at the level up what you
They're
saw.
not at the level of St. Joe's Prep or LaSalle.
No. So that should be interesting because it's hard to. LaSalle's not. They're going to probably have a good week of practice. They're going to probably not be happy that they just lost to Roman, and I think they're going to show up ready to play.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, a couple things I noticed watching. A couple things I noticed watching that game. If you can protect your quarterback, you can get some stuff against LaSalle secondary. That's the first thing. The second thing, I'm still shocked that Roman won. I don't know if I've seen special teams that bad in a while. And usually if your special teams are that bad, you have no business winning a football game. So I don't know how they won that football game with their special teams.
Yeah, usually special teams and penalties are those two kind of areas that they can really hurt you. But they got through it. They got past it, Travis, for sure, and were able to overcome it. And what a huge win though for Roman. I mean, that's a really big win.
That's a big time win for Roman. I don't want to take anything away from the win from them, but it also could have been a little bit of LaSalle looking ahead.
It could be.
Prep.
There's that happens.
A little bit. There's a little bit, but at the same time, though, it did definitely raise some concerns as far as LaSalle is concerned. Basically, their defense. Roman did whatever they wanted to them. Whatever they wanted, they did.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Obviously, I do think that they'll be ready to go for prep, but they should definitely be concerned, and I'm sure it's going to be a pretty long, intense week for them.
I agree
for sure.
Okay, so here's just a handful of.
I'll say one thing. One thing real quick.
Travis.
Just even in a loss, that young man, what's the Joey O'Brien?
The quarterback.
LaSalle. He's a heck of a football player.
Let's go to Notre Dame. Yeah,
he is a heck of a football player
for sure. Yep. So here's some around the state scores. Just some stuff that kind of popped up. Central Catholic 21, North Allegheny, their biggest rival, 6. North Allegheny, they came in the top. They were ranked, I think, 5th in the state in 6A. So that's a good win there for and that was on the road for Central Catholic, a 15-point win. Peters Township over Upper St. Clair, 2 of the top 5A schools in the state, 24-20 Peters Township. And here's kind of a surprise. Not that I know a whole lot about these teams, but West York over Eastern York, 48-6. So West York, they might be for real, and that's one of those 4A schools that we talk about.
Yeah, maybe the score wise, but I know West York kind of handled Eastern York last year, similar to that.
All right.
But I mean, the camp from Western York, their fans and the players and the people, from what I'm hearing, they really think that they have a shot this year. We'll see though. We'll see.
Probably going to go through why I'm missing, and that's with respect to Susquehanna Township and Twin Valley and whoever else I'm leaving out. With respect to them, you got to beat why I'm missing for sure. Aliquippa lost to Newcastle 18-12. Line Mountain over Steel High. Line Mountain's a little 1A school. Okay, and Steel High's I think 1A. If they weren't bumped up to 2A, and Line Mountain played most of the game without their best player. He got hurt early in the game, early in the first quarter. I forget his name. I should have jotted it down. But he's their best offensive and defensive player, and they got the win over Steel High 36-34. And then, Dave, talk about this one briefly. Bonner Prendergast 22, Cardinal O'Hara 10.
They will meet again, just like they did last year. 2 close games. They'll meet again in a couple of weeks, or 3 weeks, whatever it is, the playoff, the Catholic League Championship. The winner of that game I know you have to watch out for why I'm missing, but I think the winner of O'Hara and lost my train of thought here, Joe. But O'Hara and Bonner will win the state championship in 4A.
Okay. I can't tell you wrong.
Yeah, I'm not
I
gonna
kind of have
argue
a
against that.
little bit of a heart for why I'm missing since we met the
But-
coach last week, and I think they're really good too.
But
You know?
but why I'm missing is really good.
Yeah, I think this is
Really
one of his better teams.
They did beat Haverford School of the
They
Interact.
did.
Haverford School beat
Who-
Bonner. So
yeah.
there's a little comparison.
Bonner.
If you could use
Yep.
that. And then why I'm missing they beat Donegal yesterday 44-28. Not a bad loss for Donegal. I'm not sure what their record is on the season, but it was still a 16-point game. And
How about Chester's score?
it's like 78-7 or something like that.
Yeah,
78.
and Chichester's much improved. They got 3 wins. They came in 3-2. And so Chester's just taking care of business. They took a lot of heat for that on my Facebook page, as you saw, when I made the final. But Chester's taking care of business. And boy, what a dream game for me, for everybody, would be a state semifinal game, 5A, Chester and Roman Catholic. Boy, that would be athletes galore.
That really would be. There's no doubt about that. So that's about it. I mean, unless anybody has any statewide games, we're going to get to the point here where I'm going to try to save some time, more time to talk about the statewide games, because the teams are going to start clearing each other out a little bit. That's just kind of what happens the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. You're still at the point where all the games you see in the pink, there's only between 1 and maybe 3 teams out of the top 10 losing on a weekly basis. So a lot of these teams are just still beating up on teams that they're winning by 5-6 touchdowns or more. So, but that's
Joe. I really appreciate Travis and Mr. Clark on the show, because they're very, and you too, you're very grounded. I get a little, maybe terse at times, and
no, man, we're everybody's got their own thing here. That's Dave.
Yeah, these guys are very very intellectual. I mean,
they're not as emotional as you are, Dave. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I'm just And Joe, I don't know how you do it too. You
guys are all great. I'm a little more fiery when I'm. Yeah.
You know how to turn it on, and you know how to turn it off.
I can reel it in when I have to. So let's talk about our players of the week here, and I just kind of chose them, and I think I don't know if there's going to be any argument. Let's start with young man out of that's our Mechanicsburg player, right? Yeah, that's the Mechanicsburg kid, and both of the players of the week wear the same color uniform. But that's Reese Miller. Again, he had 158 total yards, 24 for 147 on the ground, and then he caught a pass for 11 yards in the air, and that is in a big 14-7 win over Redland. And so that's what he did to earn one of the players of the week. And let's take that down and move over to young man by the name of Mark Carruthers, and Shippensburg in a 23-20 win, 19 carries for 101 yards, a game-winning 12-yard touchdown late in the fourth, and he added 3 receptions for 40 yards. So,
Joe, you guys remember his father?
I don't.
Carlisle
Carruthers?
High School great Ed Carruthers.
I don't remember his father. Nope. But
wow. Okay.
A couple of the Steel High kids had big games too. Okay, I can tell you that. But they lost. I'm trying to pick. Does anybody disagree with trying to select kids that were on winning teams? That seems to me like the way to go with this stuff. So anyway, congratulations to them. We'll get T-shirts out to Mark and Reese. And we'll remind you that we have these fellas upcoming. Joe Heaton texted me right before the show. He's like, "Hey, where's the link? How do I get in there tonight?" I said, "You're not tonight, Coach." So I know that he's looking forward to joining us. That'll be next week. then the following week, these two I think we get on every year. Andrew Irby, Steel High coach, another really good team, off to another really good start, and then this was Terry's recommendation, and you nailed it, Terry. We have Brett Myers from Twin Valley, and he's off to another very good start, and it's just amazing. I can't wait to talk to him about what he did to just turn that program around. I mean, It's just all changed. I looked at their record. I used Max Preps. It's no mystery. They weren't doing well before he came, and they were doing well. They are doing well now that he's there. And he did great down in Middletown too. So that's our upcoming coaches. Anybody else have anything for the good?
No, another tremendous show.
Yeah, well, we're just hit the hour mark. I do try to keep it at an hour. Let you guys have the remainder of your Sunday nights to enjoy with your family or watch football or whatever you do. So, thanks once again to Capital Region Insurance Agency, Larry Bragg from Payer Apparel. Larry, thanks for the T-shirts. They're beautiful shirts, and we appreciate being able to award our Players of the Week with the shirts. Team PA, Greg and Andrea Cavoli, Team PA AAU Basketball, Ted's Bar and Grill, the Tire Mart, American Legion Post 272, Crystal Bob at Iron Valley Real Estate, Hoffman Ford, Sam Hartley Decking, and Tonino's Pizza. Thanks once again to those great local businesses for their continued support. Thank you to Terry Clark Jr., Travis Waters, Dave Berman. Really appreciate it. And that was a lot of fun once again. And I'll be texting with you guys during the week. All right?
All right.
Have a good evening, everyone.